Okay, everybody, welcome back. So we're now continuing. We got a little head start. Good morning. Got a little head start on chapter 21 yesterday. We just read a couple lines. We'll begin with the beginning of chapter 21, and the English and Hebrew is here. So it's available for everybody. The point that we're trying to analyze in great depth, this is technical, but I believe, if approached in the proper way, deeply evocative. So it's sort of technical and at the very same time poetic. Those they seem like two different things, technical and poetic, but I believe that, so you sort of have to use. It's interesting. I had a meeting yesterday with a very bright young lady who was 10 years old. I think 10 years old.
They're very creative.
Yeah. And so I was just talking to her, what are you talking with a 10-year-old about? So, well, I guess, Larry, that's what you do for a living. But I guess I'm a father. I know something about it. I forgot. So, so of course you talk about school, right? How's school? So it's interesting. I asked her what her two favorite subjects were. She said English and science. I thought that was interesting. I told her that a lot of people make kind of this bifurcation, the right side of your brain, your left side of your brain, and that they're responsible for more scientific, rational, quantifiable kind of thinking, and then the more poetic side of your brain. And you don't find too many poets who are also scientists. It's like, though you occasionally do. It's sort of like two different things.
Scientists are a lot of musicians and stuff.
Could be. Yeah, Einstein certainly was. Yeah. Played violin. But in any case, that's unusual. So I guess the reason I'm saying this is because I would like to kind of see if we can learn this chapter, which is very technical from a Kabbalistic point of view, and at the same time, I believe speaks very deeply to our soul. That's kind of the other side of the brain. So if we could energize both sides of the brain. Everybody energized? Holistically, both sides of the brain? Okay, no yawning allowed, I'm sorry. Okay. Now, just to back up slightly, what we're trying to discuss is to dispel a notion which many of us may have had, including me. If you would have asked me 12 months ago, what is Yud-K Vav-K, that name of God, versus Elohim, that name of God, I would have said that Elohim is the name of God as it relates towards creation, kind of God flowing outwards. And then Yud-K Vav-K is God as he is in and of himself, his essence, right? So what we're seeing here is not true. Or it's not quite true, put it that way. That Elohim and Yud-K Vav-K are God as it relates outwards. Neither of those terms refer to God as he is in his essence. And for that, we actually use a different term, as we mentioned yesterday, the term Ein Sof, the infinite God. Okay, both Yud-K Vav-K and Elohim relate to creation, but in different ways. Elohim is the creative aspect of God, which is responsible for the multiplicity of creation. Yud-K Vav-K is the aspect of God which is the underlying unity of creation. So both of them are relating to creation. Both of those are creative expressions of the essence of God, creative outward expressions, but in different aspects of creation. One is to create the differentiation. One is the underlying unity. So Elohim is differentiation. That's why, as we mentioned lately, past couple of sessions, Elohim is in the plural. Right? How ironic. The name of God is a plural form in Hebrew grammar. Bad judgment. You want to advertise that God is one, so you give him a name that means many gods. Mistake. Of course, not a mistake. And then Yud-K Vav-K is the aspect of which is the underlying harmony and unity behind all of that multiplicity of existence. But now we're going to go deeper. We're going to go into a very deep analysis of the name Yud-K Vav-K, that four-letter name of God. Okay, the Tetragrammaton, as they call it in Latin. So, Kaf He, Kaf Aleph, chapter 21. Ubiur ha'inyan tzrichim lakdim tchila lavin inyan hashtei otiot yud he d'shem havaya. So in order to understand more deeply how Yud Ke Vav Ke is an expression of the underlying unity of existence, right? That even though there's multiplicity, there is a harmony in the multiplicity. We're going to have to understand the meaning of the first two letters of God's name, the Yud and the He. Now, what about the Yud and the He? Shehem bechinat tzimtzum vehit pashtut. That they represent respectively the aspects of contraction and expansion. As you mentioned yesterday, this is Kabbalistic lamaz, expansion and contraction. Okay, we're going to give birth to the worlds through contraction and expansion. Mukhrach shitzamtzem or atzmuto mikol v'chol kulo yuchal mekabel kabel masha kamosha or v'ashefa v'itpashtut begadlut b'har chavag de'ol b'har mashpia. Okay. Now I'm going to just say something he didn't say, and then I'll translate what he said in a second. I'm just going to skip ahead just so you don't lose the forest of the trees, and that is that contraction and expansion, these two modalities, which we'll define what they are in a second, but they're represented by the Yud and the He. And I just want you to see right now why they're represented by the Yud and the He, because Yud is a tiny little letter. That represents, can you guess? Contraction. Yeah, because it's contracted. It's very small.
House is the other way.
Yud.
It has a cover.
And the He is dimensional, wide, right? So the Yud represents contraction, Tzimtzum in Hebrew, and the He represents Hitpashtut, expansion. Now, let's go now to the conceptual discussion of that. That when somebody or an entity wants to emanate from themselves something, to influence, to give over a light to a recipient. By the way, the easiest example of this is teaching. Communicating. That's what teaching is, right? Parenting. This is really true in many relationships. Matter of fact, I would say almost all relationships are in, depending upon the specific interaction, there's the mashpia, someone who's trying to give over something, and there's the mikabel, someone who's on the receiving end. Now, relationships are dynamic, right? And every interaction is different. A person who had the role of mashpia, of giving over, can also be a mikabel, to receive. As a matter of fact, it should be that way in terms of human relationships. In any case, so when you want to give over something, mashpia in Hebrew, now let's talk about it in the educational model. So in the educational model, Professor Larry Koff comes into the classroom, and he's going to give a lecture on psychology and Kabbalah to a classroom of fifth graders. So that's the challenge, because the way Dr. Koff understands these ideas, if he were just to say it like he understands it himself, this would not be effective, because the mikabel, the recipients, would not be able to receive it. So what happens? So it's necessary, and I'm just translating here, that he contract the light of the essence, right? In other words, that knowledge, those ideas, what does he have to do with them? Contract them, make them small, right? Because if he were just to give over the light, the metaphor used here, as it exists within himself, right? Then it wouldn't be able to be received by the recipient. It has to be profoundly contracted from its essential state in all of its Larry Koff glory. And there's just going to remain in a great state of contraction this little tiny part which is necessary in order to be able to give over. Now, see, here's the trick. This is such an amazing balance, and it's the secret of communicating and certainly of teaching, and that is there's got to be something left after the contraction, or else what you're giving over has no relationship to the thing that you want to give over. You know, if Dr. Koff were to come into the classroom and say, oh my God, I'm supposed to be teaching this to 10-year-olds. Well, you know what? Okay, I'm just going to like tell a fairy tale instead and hope they kind of get it, right? There has to be a relationship between the original idea and what's being given over, or else you're not, it's sort of like a kind of micro condensed version of something. I don't know why. I'm trying to think of an image that for some reason freeze dried. You know, you could take like something that was big and you take out all the moisture of it and boil it down to its essence.
Like a storybook.
So that boiled down essence, the freeze dried, all the moisture is taken out. So that obviously partakes of what had been inflated and big and filled out before, but it still captures the essence, but it's in a much more condensed and portable version. Okay.
Turn it into Pokemon character.
Yeah, whatever that is. Shemizeh. Yeah, I'm not so familiar with it, but so through that dot, then one is successfully able to give over the light and the influence to those who are receiving it. That's called in Kabbalah nikuda. Nikuda means a point. It's the point, right? That like a dot. So that dot, that's the thing which is left over after the contraction, the freeze-dried process. Okay, the dehydration process, which makes it very small. Okay, now, again, so we don't lose the forest through the trees, that's symbolized by what letter? The dot? The yud, thank you. Sheyesh bo shnei minei tzimtzumim. Now, this contractive process has two actually contraction elements to it. Ha'echad, what's the first one? Mashenit tzamtzeim v'nit aleim kol or ha'atzmut demashpia. The first is that there is a contraction and hiddenness, or hiding, of the light of the essence of the source of that which is giving off, giving over, the source of the light. The only thing remains is the yud, right? That little tiny letter. That is what is left after the contraction and the process of hiding. That which can then be ingested and digested by the recipient. Vahabet, what's the second aspect of the contraction? Shemash nishar mina shefa hu gam ken b'chinat tzimtzum dafka, v'hu ma she'eno rak kenikuda achat bilti ba behit pashtut v'archava adayin shezeu tzimtzum ve'elev v'nikra ayin liyotat nikuda levad shehu bilti nimshach adayin b'chinat hamshacha v'itpashtut ve'eno b'chinat gilui adayin. Okay, so this is a little bit more subtle here. And what he's saying here is that there's maybe the way to look at this is the following. I'm just trying to think of images here. When an idea, it relates a little bit of something we said before. When idea is boiled down, it has to have two elements to it. It has to have the element of the contraction, but it also has to have within it, in a hidden state, the full glory of the original idea. or else it has no relationship with what you're actually trying to convey. Everybody got this idea? So that is the great balancing act and the two aspects of the tzimtzum. The boiling down so that it could be ingested and digested, yet partaking in potential of the full glory of the original idea. Okay. V'kach yuvan lamala b'derech klal b'inyan ot hayud t'shem avaya diliot she'atzmut or in zov baruch hu b'chinat or pashtut b'tachlit bilti yachol lavo b'gilui or liot afilu makor lechol hishtashlut olamot. Now let's talk about what we're really talking about. Let's move away from the concept of a dot or the concept of a yud. Let's just talk about the real thing, G-D, God. Okay? The real essence of the infinite light of God. This utterly simple light. Why do you say simple? Because there's a very big difference between a unity, which means component parts but unified, and something which is oneness. That it's not component parts in harmony, but it's just oneness. Do you get sort of the idea? It's kind of like, to give you an analogy, a jigsaw puzzle. We talked about this before. So if you cut up the jigsaw puzzle, now you got 100 pieces, you got 1,000 pieces. Now you put the jigsaw puzzle together. So, wow, 1,000 pieces, but now you see the harmonious relationship between all the pieces. But what about before it was cut into pieces? Then it's just oneness. So that's an analogy. So the Ein Sof, that's like the jigsaw puzzle before it's cut into pieces, right? It's just pure oneness. There's no component parts. So when we're talking about the essence of Or Ein Sof, the essence of the infinite light of God, which is in the state of Or Pashut, the jigsaw puzzle before it's sawed into pieces, Bilti Yachol Lavo B'Gilui Or. There could be no revelation, no giving off, no flowing outwards from that state. Because that state of pure oneness cannot at all be the source of the devolution of the worlds, of coming into being of the worlds. We'll stop with this point. Oh my gosh. How are we going to breathe until tomorrow morning? I don't know, but we'll try. Have a great day, everybody.